We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. This is our end of the year show. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. My guest is Tammy Zorge, a registered nurse working on her master's degree, very much involved with wellness. Tammy, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you, Josh. It's good to be here.
And you are doing nursing right now where?
Well, I work at Cedars-Sinai. I'm technically on sabbatical right now because I'm finishing up my nurse practitioner degree, which I should be graduating in June, and I'm also simultaneously taking a nutritional therapy program. So I wanted to get them both done around the same time in June. So I'm on sabbatical from Cedars, and I do expect to return.
And you have your nursing degree from where?
University of Medicine and Dentistry in Newark, New Jersey. And I've been a nurse for almost 5 years.
And the whole idea of a nurse practitioner degree, now that actually has been a program that, say, for the past, 15, 20 years, has been a movement towards a nurse practitioner program.
Sure.
There was a lot of opposition on the part of the MDs towards
still
it.
Is.
There still is, really?
Yeah. I mean, nursing, I know the state of California and in general, the Board of Nursing, they're working to get closer to making nurses have more independence and not having to have a physician to be there to, work under them. Some states have more independence, but a lot of state boards of nursing within the United States, they're all separate, so they all have some different rules. But with the Affordable Health Care Act starting, there should be more of a need for nurse practitioners because we can offer many of the same services in healthcare as doctors, and more so in the primary care realm at a lesser cost, even though I believe we should be equal to their pay, but it's fine,
Right.
Because a lot of people prefer nurses or nurse practitioners anyway because we're more holistic.
Right.
And we look more at the whole person and not just, you have this, we're going to take care of this, blah, blah, blah. They don't look at the psychosocial aspects. They don't look at your environment. They don't look at your diet, your mental health needs. So I think for nurses, at least I know for me, I like to look at everything.
Well, that all makes perfect sense to me.
Sure.
And I like to believe that that's the way healthcare is going. And I think there is a movement towards that.
There is.
I think there's a movement towards that. And certainly a skillful, well-trained, qualified RN can probably do pretty much everything that a skillful, well-trained MD can do. There might be a few things they can do. They have specialized training in some area for sure.
Of course.
But largely a skilled healthcare worker can really help most of the patients most of the time at a reduced cost.
Mm-hmm.
At a reduced cost.
Yeah, ideally, I would love to work in a holistic practice because even though I know people need medications for certain things at certain times,
They do, yeah.
But I'd rather work in a practice where we can focus on the person helping themselves. With proper nutrition, diet, stress reduction, sleep, adequate hydration, exercise. That's what I would like to focus. Also with the mental health aspects because I am studying psychiatric NP. So I'd like to combine psychiatric with my medical background along with nutrition, and I think that's almost the perfect prescription for wellness.
No, it sounds very good. I remember it was Abraham Hoffer in 1951 who was working with patients who had mental illness, broad term, and he gave them niacin, and just the B vitamin niacin, and he got good results with some of the patients with nutrition, and that was kind of one of the early physicians who work with nutrition and emotional illness. Certainly we know that, pellagra is a B vitamin deficiency. When pellagra first occurred in the early part of the 20th century, most of the physicians said, no, it was infectious. They were going back to the work of Pasteur.
Right.
They said, it's infectious. And the people who said, no, it's nutritional, because everyone was eating a lot of white rice, which was deficient in B vitamins, and then they had to fight, and eventually they decided pellagra is a B vitamin deficiency.
Sure. Right.
So sometimes emotional stuff is very terribly complicated, but sometimes it could be a blood sugar issue as well. There could be a blood sugar component.
True. Well, you see people who have alcoholism. A lot of them crave sugar, or if
They
they're
do,
off the
right.
bottle, then a lot of them they drink their soda, their
Right.
whatever sweets that they can get.
Right.
And I have experience, not personal, but I have family members who've gone through that. In fact, my someone very close to me, and she's been craving a lot more sugar since she's decided
Right.
to. And my father was the same way. So, and also, I'm sure you're aware of the ketogenic diet, healthy fats and proteins. I hear that that's helpful for depression and other forms of mental illness, as well as cancer and other things too. So,
Yeah, it certainly would be. And of course, human beings are very complicated.
Of
So
course.
I would never say that nutrition is 100% of the answer.
Of course.
It is not. Human beings have a lot going on. But some of it is low blood sugar. For example, let's say someone wakes up at 7 in the morning, they're in a good mood, but they're too busy to eat breakfast. They just run off to work, no breakfast. Suddenly it's 10:30, they're at the office. They start to sweat, they start to shake, they get irritable, lightheaded, headachy. Maybe worst case scenario, they pass out. That could be a classic sign of low blood sugar.
that's true.
It's not structural. It's not structural. They skipped a meal or they ate processed sugar. Their blood sugar dropped, and that was a symptom. And that is not exactly mainstream now, but people are kind of moving in that direction, realizing, oh, yeah, sugar, our blood sugar is an issue, partially, for our emotional well-being.
I definitely agree with that. They talk about kids who have ADHD and are out of control. I think a lot of them are eating too much sugar and too many processed foods.
Right,
and
that
I
certainly could be
think
part. That certainly could be part of the equation. Also, if
Certainly.
you ever gone to an AA meeting, especially the ones from years ago, people were busy not drinking. They realized the problem of they weren't drinking, but in those days they were busy in the back smoking cigarettes, or drinking Coca-Cola, or eating lots of ice cream or candy. They did not, as an organization, work with blood sugar issues. Now, of course, you go to
Right.
AA meetings, and most of them are non-smoking meetings. There's no smoking, So that's good. But they still don't really get the food component. That is, if you have blood sugar issues and you're inclined to smoke cigarettes, because tobacco spikes up your blood sugar, or drink alcohol, which also spikes your sugar up temporarily.
Of course.
If you eat protein of your choice, egg, salmon, chicken, turkey, lamb, it's your call. Do protein at least 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you're having really an off day, breakfast, lunch, and snack dinner, the protein helps keep your blood sugar stable. And even something as simple as that as a protocol, you might find within the month, you think, I think I feel better. Not the full answer, but it's part of the answer.
I totally agree with that. I've, as we briefly discussed before, I do have chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. And I know for me, staying off the sugar, especially when I'm sick, I heal myself much.
Right.
Within 2 or 3 months, I'm ready to go do what I have to do and live a normal life. So I totally understand the sugar connection.
Right.
And
So you had chronic fatigue,
yes.
and how was that diagnosed for you?
Well, back in 1999, I thought I had the flu. This was right before New Year's 2000. And anyway, so I was sick, had the flu-like symptoms. So, and then I went back to work and I noticed that, I'm still not feeling right. So I was talking to people and someone mentioned chronic fatigue syndrome, and that was in the back of my mind anyway, because it's really odd, but for my whole adult life, when I when I was younger, reading about chronic fatigue, I was like, I hope I never get that.
Oh.
So here I get it. So anyway, so I did a lot of research, and my doctor, of course, you need to, go see a shrink, it's all in your head, whatever.
Yeah, so we talked about it as a group. So it was, they were dismissive of you.
Yes, very.
Which is like really annoying. It's annoying. See, one thing about the professions, like the physicians, we, the public, will put up with their arrogance if they're right.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly, their ideas stink and they're arrogant. Now, that's really a bad combination.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
They all think they know better. But anyway, that's another
And to be
subject.
dismissive, to speak to you, a grown woman, as like, oh, we're going to pat you on the head. Oh, just go see a shrink, because they don't recognize the issue. That's really
Well,
annoying.
because there's no blood test or diagnostic that states, you have this deficiency, so you have chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. It's
Okay, that's
it's
true.
A,
That's
it's a
fair. It's
process.
fair.
It's
It's a fair criticism.
elimination.
Right.
So they only can make assumptions because doctors like everything black and white.
Right.
So fortunately, I was able to find a doctor who was she agreed with me, and she was what's the word? Anyway, so we had
Aware, possibly, is
yes,
the word.
yes.
What's one possible
and-
word?
Right, and empathetic, of course. So we worked together, and I had already started, going on a yeast-free diet and no breads, no sugar, eating what I called back then a birdseed diet.
Smart move, though, the yeast-free diet.
Yes.
And did you feel better, right?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I
Yeast-free.
should say, oh gosh, yes.
No, you can say whatever you like on the show, actually. It's good.
So, and then she just would tweak it a little bit. Maybe you should take some milk thistle because that'll help purify your liver, and some little things like that. And even though I was told to be on this strict diet for 6 months, I did it in about 3 months, and I started to, because I was feeling really good, and I started eating more of my normal way, which wasn't horrible, but I do like, sweets. That's my problem. And shopping, but that's another subject. And I was okay as long as I kept it in moderation, and I was active and I exercised. And but sometimes I would notice that when I was typing, I used to work as an administrative assistant and did a lot of computer work, and even now as a nurse, because I in research I'm at the computer a lot. I would get like motor weakness in my left arm, and I know that's a chronic fatigue thing, and it's related to the sugar. And so I know, I have to cut back on the sugar. So for the most part, for many years, I was doing well. And then about a little over 3 years ago, I working night shift at the hospital and probably not eating as well as I should have, not sleeping properly, and just stressed out, and it hit me again, only worse this time. And the last time I had it, they said I had CMV, which is cytomegalovirus, which usually happens in children, or it might happen to people who are immune compromised, like AIDS patients. I mean, I don't have AIDS, but it still hit me. So I still have that antibody within me. And so this last time, a few years ago, I had a virus, but they didn't know what it was. So, and I could tell, you feel like you have the flu. My throat was all swollen and very nasty looking. Dave actually got to see my mouth when I went to the doctor, and it was pretty gross from what I understand. But anyway, and then I could just feel it overcoming me. So I knew exactly what I had to do. I had to go back strict again, and I started doing more research and finding more, options. And I did acupuncture as well, which I think really helped. And I forced myself to exercise, not in the regular, but I did a lot of walking with Dave, because he walks all over the place, and it was hard. It was hard to walk like a half a block without but I got through it. And
walking, of course, is a great exercise. I mean, just exercise
Right.
every muscle in the body. It's a great thing, walking,
even if you're feeling sick, because it's still beneficial. You're getting oxygen and into your lungs and everything. So, and since then I've been much more cognizant of, okay, I need to really, really, not get sloppy with my diet. And like I said, with holidays, sometimes it's a little harder
Right.
if you go
Holidays,
out
right.
or something, or, but I'm doing much better, and I've learned a lot more in the past few years as well too. And I decided to incorporate nutrition as part of, because I talk a lot about it, but I want to have a certification. I want to be an expert in it.
No, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So
I think it's nice to be a nurse practitioner is a great thing. To be a RN is a
Exactly.
great thing. It's nice to have the training and the accreditation. It's a very smart thing. Now, you mentioned how you had a problem with chronic fatigue, and there's no real blood test for that, which is that's a valid criticism, I think, of people who maybe have that diagnosis.
Sure.
But think about psychiatry. There you have an entire profession in which a lot of drug medication is given out freely, and they don't test their organ, do they? There's no blood work involved.
That's
and,
true.
And you'd think that people would kind of be alert to that, and yet there's no real conversation about it. It's like they give you tons of drugs. In the 50s, they gave people Thorazine, it's Haldol. It's amazing how the drugs maybe are less toxic now, but they just heavy drug medication people.
Well, there are some drugs, because again, I have had some experience doing clinicals, with mental health, since that's my specialty is psychiatric, along with the nutrition. If you're going to, like, Depakote affects the liver, so they do want you to get your liver tested every few months. As you know, lithium as well, that can affect your kidneys. And I do know my experience.
Yes, lithium. People used to say lithium was without consequence, but it does affect the kidneys.
Yes, and you have to watch your salt intake. So it's very, 'cause you have
Is
to.
lithium widely used for mood still?
When I was doing it in the clinics here in Los Angeles, and we never prescribed it, but my family member of mine is on lithium right now. She was initially on Depakote, but that didn't work as well for her. And it's plus being a young woman, Depakote, a lot of you gain weight, your hair falls out, and the doctor agreed that
Which
it
seems
wasn't
like some pretty serious side effects.
Yes.
Not minor side effects, those are serious.
Yes. Oh, and worse things can happen over the long haul. But she's on lithium right now, and I haven't seen it prescribed too much, but she's also in another state, and she's doing great with it. We do talk about maybe trying to wean yourself off, through the help of a doctor, and I give her lots of information about diet, and she's sort of interested in that stuff anyway. So hopefully she's following what I suggest to her. But I don't. Maybe in regular psychiatric practices it may be prescribed a lot, but I just know when you're working in a county clinic or a state-run clinic, I have not seen it as of yet.
Do you think that when you receive your nurse practitioner master's degree, that there'll be much more work around for nurse practitioners?
I think it's heading in that direction. I also know that there's more in more rural areas of the country or less populated. There's probably more need, and they actually pay them more as well too.
What, they would run clinics, is that it?
Yeah, well, there are some nurse-run clinics, yes. In some states, I think like the state of Washington, they're more independent nurse practitioners. In LA, I hear it's hard. You can get a nurse practitioner job, but it's hard to find a decent one, and they don't pay you as well. Plus, I hear in the metropolitan areas, that there's more competition as well too. But I think with the Affordable Care Act coming out, and of course, our baby boomers are aging. I think that there's going to be more of a need. So I encourage anyone who is interested in healthcare and really wants to help their patient, and I know it's a cliche, we just want to help people, but.
Well, some healthcare providers really, not only do they want to, they actually can. They're just enormously healthy. A great healer really helps people. I also think that the nurse practitioner license will become more valuable. I think that the world is going that way. People realize, no, we don't have to have an MD. MDs are good for some stuff.
Of course.
But the nurse practitioner can handle really a lot of the things that the physician handles for less money, and equal good care.
And a lot of doctors actually don't even want to do primary care. They want to specialize. Right. Because they make more money and what have you. So I think nurse practitioner is the way to go for healthcare. And I know a lot of people have. In fact, my dermatologist is a nurse practitioner, and I've only seen her a couple times, but she's fine. And I know other people, they love their nurse practitioners because we're more empathetic and we listen and we don't just brush patients off.
Oh my goodness! The whole idea of getting a history is one of the techniques you use to have a sense of your patient.
Of course.
If you don't get a history, but when you get a history, the patient tells you what's wrong with them. And that's really good. The healer should listen to that.
Of course. And then for me, I tend to go into diet, like when I'm doing clinicals, because I was doing primary care. I start talking about nutrition a little bit, and I know there's, I'm sort of like, well, how do I do this if I'm in this typical primary kind of practice? Because I want to spend time with my patient. I want to know everything, but yet everything is, with the insurance companies, people in and out. Right. How can you properly diagnose?
Right.
And
it's a problem, and everyone has to earn a living. The healer has to earn a living. I agree with that. But if you can get a health history from your patient, it just makes it's just better. It's better health. It's a problem, though, because people do have a right to earn a living.
Sure.
But it is an issue. You go see a physician for 2 minutes, and they push you in and out of the office, and that's not good health care. It's not, like what I always say is, if you go out to buy a blouse, and you want to spend $1,500 on a blouse, the blouse is a lark. You want that blouse. You don't care if the sales girl is a dummy, because you want the blouse.
Right.
But with healthcare, you think, whoa, I'm sick. This is serious. I'm sick. Pay attention. Be a little bit empathetic and give me some good advice. But you don't actually get that. Some people say, well, if you're a real wealthy guy, you get better care. Not necessarily. They just mess with you more. And if you're a real poor guy, you think, oh, I'm going to get bad care. No, sometimes you get great care because, the state's picking up the tab, so they'll do a lot of stuff to you. So being very wealthy or very, very impoverished, the care's not better on either spectrum.
Right, it just depends, too. And, if you're paying out of pocket, I would imagine for the wealthy people, and you're going to more of a holistic healthcare provider, then you probably would get the better care.
Here's a story that I've said this before on the air because it's an upsetting story, and we all, I think, can relate to it. I belong to a group called the Cancer Control Society, which, in my opinion, is a really remarkably good group for wellness ideas. And they at the at the Sheraton off Lancashire here in LA. They have a meeting every Labor Day weekend, every year. And fantastic speakers from all over the globe go there. It's really remarkable good information about cancer treatments and other treatments, but really good science, MDs there, PhDs, really very good. And they have a panel of recovered cancer patients and tell you what they did. So one woman got up, and she was a woman, she must have been in her 40s, and she was not affluent. And she had cancer, went to the MD. They wanted to do chemo radiation. She didn't want to do that. So she did other ideas, non-toxic, and she healed herself of cancer.
I've heard those stories.
You know, there are a lot of stories like that around. And so she went back to the physician, and she had blood work taken. Her first physician she went to who wanted to do chemo and radiation. And she had the blood test taken, and she didn't hear from the physician. So she waited a week, she waited 2 weeks. Eventually, she called the physician on the phone and said, well, what's my blood work? What was it? And the physician got on her phone and said, oh yeah, you don't have cancer anymore. And the woman who would tell the story was heartbroken. She was heartbroken because she was a cancer patient. She went to the physician for blood work. The blood work came back, you're free of cancer. You would assume that the MD would call her and say, you're free of cancer. I did good work. I'm an MD, you're free of cancer. That he would be happy that she was free of cancer.
Of course.
But she was so unimportant to the MD that he, even though she was free of cancer, he didn't even bother to call her and wasn't happy for her on the phone. And you could see how upset she was, thinking, don't I have any value as a human being at all?
Of course.
And it resonated with the entire audience because everyone thinking, hey, we get that. And unfortunately, many MDs are guilty of that. And I use that story because it was a powerful story. It was a powerful story. And everyone kind of thinking, yeah, we feel bad for you too. We get it.
Yeah, no, that makes me very sad, and I don't understand. And again, you know, the psychological aspect of it too is important. And if your doctor is happy for you, and
that's right,
and everything is much better. But I was going to say, I read a book called The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, PhD, and it has some stories about people curing their cancer or what have you because they truly believed. And then some people think, well, how come if I pray that I'm not going to have cancer anymore, or, you know, I'm better, it's not working. I think it has to be somehow ingrained subconsciously within you that you really believe it.
Yeah, by the way, that whole idea, the importance of mind is very important. That's not my expertise. So while I know those stories are valuable, with me, I work on, because I think most cancers are environmental. 65% are environmental.
And a lot diet, too.
Yeah, and the U.S. government says about 30% are dietary, and I think that's 95% of it. And 5% we don't know.
Right.
But that's for sure. But mostly, in general, we do know. For example, the whole idea of curing cancer. Well, we already know that we'd have 30% less cancers in the country if no one smoked cigarettes. So that's not radical. There's a cure for cancer. Nobody smokes cigarettes. Cancer reduction 30%. That's a big deal, too. That's not nitpicking. And yet, there's not enough really anti-smoking. There could be more.
Sure.
There could be more. And we know exactly what to do, and it's cost effective.
So do you agree that because smoking is very acidic to your body, and acidic foods is like the combination of just being acidic is what causes a lot of illness?
Well, in general, there is an acid-alkaline balance to the body.
Right.
But when people talk about acid or base foods, acid-alkaline foods, I agree with that, but only philosophically, not scientifically.
Okay.
And here's why I say that. So what are the foods that, in my opinion, are so-called acid-forming that contribute to bad health? Those foods are contributing to bad health: sugar, coffee, alcohol, and tobacco. Now, in the stomach has an acid medium to digest protein food.
Right.
So now there have been a lot of alkaline waters that are very popular. And they might even be of good quality. And they might taste real good, better than tap water. But still, I don't think they do anything for our health because the stomach has an acid medium, so everything you drink becomes acid in the stomach anyway. But having said that, you don't want to drink chlorinated, fluoridated water. So I think in the natural foods world, there are some items that are just fashionable, that lack science, and there are a lot of ideas that have strong merit behind them.
Well, okay. The stomach acid is different than the blood pH.
Right.
So
but the blood pH never really varies.
Not much.
Right.
You're right. But you know, it should be about 7.365 or anywhere from 7.35 to 7.45, I believe. But you're correct. But still, people are a little more acid than they should be. And also the ironic thing is when we...
Well, yes, by the way, I agree with you. Yes.
Okay. A lot of people who ingest a lot of acidic foods actually raises their stomach pH. So our stomach pH on an empty stomach should be 2 to 3 approximately. But somehow the paradox is that we eat all these acidic wrong foods just makes it worse. And
no, definitely no. If you're drinking a lot of
and we don't-
Coca-Cola,
and
then
we don't
man,
have-
you have all sorts of stomach troubles.
right, and we don't have enough acid, and that's why a lot of people have stomach problems too, because they actually
agree.
don't have enough
agree.
acid, even though our stomach is an acidic environment. It's just very interesting how our body works.
The body's very interesting.
it's
And let me
amazing.
just say that what I constantly say is, in my opinion, the single smartest thing we can do if we are 10 years old or 40 or 99 years old, we want to be healthy, we want to eat zero processed sugar.
I agree. And
I still think eating zero processed sugar is the number one thing that I recommend, and everybody kind of knows that, but they forget. So I think it's my job to emphasis.
Sure, and I totally agree. Sugar is our enemy. And when you look back into the beginning of our country in the 1700s, people consumed about 4 pounds of sugar per year. Sugar was looked as a condiment, and they didn't have the diseases we have now.
Right.
Now people, I've heard figures anywhere, the average person who's eating the typical standard American diet is consuming anywhere from 150 to even up to 300 pounds of sugar a
That's
year.
possible. Yeah, the sugar consumption.
I think
is
300 is a little high, but at least like around 160.
Well, I'm eating
pounds of-
zero sugar, I like to think, so someone's eating probably my share. So some people eat way too much sugar, and I think that
I know someone who is.
well, we won't make fun of the boyfriend. Some of the, I think some of the real reasons why Americans have so overweight, it's not that we have bad genetics. Everyone has great genetics. It's just they haven't been trained
Right.
to use food as a healing tool,
Right.
and they're consuming lots and lots of soda pop. When I was
Yes.
younger, I used to hear Jack LaLanne, who's a very important teacher. He would never say the brand of soda, and I always thought, Jack, tell him what the name of the soda is. But he always said soda pop. But now that I've gotten older, I use the word soda pop too. You don't want to fight with the big guys. Just call it
Sure.
soda pop. Soda pop is just a bad idea. You really want to not drink any soda.
I know, and I mean, I like a certain cola, but I don't drink it anymore. And even when I was younger, I didn't buy it much. I always been more of a water, and back then a juice drinker. So I totally agree with you. So this might be a little bit off the subject, but it makes me a little sad because I have, like I said, I've done clinicals for the underserved population for mental health, and and I also try to discuss diet. And I've had some clients who were interested in talking about diet, when they're carrying their processed food in their pocket and that's their lunch. It's
Right.
pretty sad, And then every corner there is a fast food place, but no decent grocery store.
But a lot of people, those people, if you as a nurse practitioner talk to them, a good percentage of the people would actually listen to you.
Some did,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, big people. Because, people go to a healer, you're a nurse practitioner, people go because you're the authority. And if you say, we suggest you do this, a big chunk of people would actually do it. People are looking for information.
That's true. And I did have a few, although, as a nurse practitioner student, I only have clinicals for a certain length of period, so you can't really get to know your patients or, for too long. But I had some people that were really interested, even though I was there for psychiatric purposes. But again, it's all related. But I wanted to
Could
make,
be related, yeah.
I think so. I think sugar and just a very, acidic diet can lead to, depending what the vulnerabilities are in your system, can lead to, mental illness problems.
I think it could.
Along with other things,
think it could,
obviously
yeah.
environmental factors and, myriad of things. But I wanted to say that there was the mission or something similar to that. They were providing meals for the holidays, and they served the people soda. And that makes me really sad because a lot of the people don't have the information that we
Right.
have, and they don't know that soda's poison.
Right.
And yet because maybe soda's cheap, and
Well, soda's cheap, but you could make herbal teas.
you could drink water.
You could drink water. You could bottle. Yeah, right.
Or
You really
even
could.
tap
Right.
water. And I know, I don't
could
like to
filter it.
drink. Yes, exactly.
Right.
What's cheaper than that? And what's more pure? Our bodies were meant to consume water.
Right. No, absolutely right. I completely agree with you.
Okay.
Well, Tammy Zorge, it's been fun having you on the show.
Well,
It's
thank
been,
you,
it's been fun.
Josh. This is exciting for me, and I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you for being a guest today.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
You're listening to Here's to Your Health. This is Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Lewis Logan, inviting you to join me every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon for Faith on the Front Line. We don't just talk about it, we are about it. That's our motto. Don't just talk about it, be about it. We highlight the issues and challenges that we face today and how faith communities and leaders make a difference. So don't forget to tune in to Faith on the Front Line, exclusively here on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B and watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hey y'all, I'm Shaquem Williams, and I'm the host of The Shock Factor here on LA Talk Live. We broadcast to the world every Friday at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Live music, live performances, we're just live. Chef Momo, Life MC, Diana, and once again, your host, Shaquem Williams. So come join us every Friday here at LA Talk Live, the world-leading broadcasting internet radio station. The Shock Factor. The Shock Factor. Come join us on The Shock Factor.
This is Brett Chapin.
And this is Dorothy Dillingham Blue, inviting you to join us every Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time for our show, La La Land Talk.
Join us as we talk with some of the top talent in LA. Artists' untold stories, your phone calls, and live on-location broadcasts have made La La Land one of the best sources in LA for everything entertainment.
So don't forget to tune in to La La Land Talk.
Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com.
Saturdays at noon Pacific Time. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/LaLaLandTalk, Twitter, twitter.com/LaLaLandTalk. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live.
And we are more than just talk. I think we've got a Shakespeare monologue or two we could do. Yeah?
Jazz hands, jazz hands.
Kickball change.
Good
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying. Mm-hmm.
I'll do some Pippin.
Ooh,
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My guest is the comedy writer Dave Shelton.
Hey.
Hello, Dave.
So that music was just so cool. I got to get jazzed into it.
Let me do your intro. Dave has done, was the editor for National Lampoon for cartoons. You've seen his work on Everybody Loves Raymond. He does voiceovers. He has a new a film coming out shortly, and he's very funny. Dave, thanks for being on the show.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Happy to have you here. Happy to have
Thanks. Yeah, I saw you had Tammy on before.
Tammy, yes.
So you're seeing the wellness part of it. Now you're seeing the pathetic part of it.
I see. That's good.
Yeah. No, my diet is getting better.
And by the way, have you working with food? You found that really does make a difference, doesn't it?
Yes, thanks to Tammy. I mean, she kind of changed a lot about me, not only my eating habits, but my dressing habits too. When we first met, I was wearing, I used to wear baggy clothes. I don't know if it was like a style trend or it was just kind of like I wanted to wear big clothes because I didn't want anyone to see what was underneath. But when we first met, she saw me in this big jacket and she thought I had these huge hips. Uh-huh. And next thing I know, it's like, oh, I don't know if she's going to like me then. But thankfully, when the jacket came off, there was a normal body underneath.
So she was happy.
Yes,
That's
relatively.
It's good to keep the women happy.
Yeah.
So you, as a much younger guy, you were the cartoon editor for National Lampoon.
Yes, and a writer for them too.
And how'd you bump into the National Lampoon crew?
That was very interesting. I'd been living in New York, and I was working for MTV and Nickelodeon. And then,
Really? You were a writer for them?
Yes, and an artist. And I met some people that were working with Tim Allen. And they had asked me to work on his HBO special, doing art and promotionals. And as a result, and then I created a toy line that I sold to a company here in LA called Imperial Toys. So I said, okay, it's time for me, to move out here. So I moved out here, worked with Tim Allen out here on his HBO special, and I got introduced to the guys at National Lampoon, and I had always idolized everything about National Lampoon. My style of writing, the comedy.
Right.
Animal House was like a huge inspiration for me. Thankfully, I never had to live any of the examples that Animal House portrayed in the movie, but I had my party days. And then as a result, they loved my portfolio. They loved my sense of humor. And then I started writing and doing cartoons for them.
That's very cool.
And I got to work with Jamie Kennedy before he got really famous. So that was really cool.
What is he famous for?
Oh, the Scream movies, Jamie Kennedy Experiment, Three Kings,
Right. Yes, that's right.
Malibu's Most Wanted. Now he's Malibu's Least Wanted.
This happens in show business. It happens. It really does happen, yeah.
Yeah, so it was great. And then as a result, I put out a bunch of products from there, everything from cartoon books to working on Chris Farley's last tour before he died. Got to work with some amazing people. I even got to hang out.
You write for Chris Farley?
No, he was part of National Lampoon, though. He was sponsored by them. But I got to be friends with a lot of cool people, even Corey Feldman.
Oh, really? Corey Feldman?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's in shape. Speaking of wellness, I got to admit, he's in pretty good shape for his age. And he kind of did a few things.
He wasn't very careful there for a while with himself.
No, he wasn't. Neither was Corey Haim, and I got to know him a little bit, too.
Yeah, Corey Feldman. What was his big movie? It was that vampire movie, wasn't it?
Lost Boys.
Lost
But
Boys,
no,
which was
he
so much
did
fun,
Stand
really.
By Me, and he did a lot of stuff.
And then he took a little side path into pharmaceuticals for a while. And,
Yeah. Oh, it's a nice way of putting it, pharmaceuticals.
Right, yeah.
We would call it, Coke.
Yeah, he wasn't very smart. I guess that's when you're very young and very affluent, and you're in showbiz. Everyone wants to party with you. So I guess you can easily kind of make a lot of mistakes. I mean, you can really make a lot of mistakes. I mean, after all, what was he? He hit it as a teenager. So he was a teenager and like.
Oh, he was a child star.
Yeah.
He was in one of the Friday the 13th movies.
He was in a movie with River Phoenix when they were both children.
That was Stand By Me.
Stand By Me, right.
Yeah, where they find the dead body. I mean, that had a great cast, too. There were a lot of kid stars that came out of that movie.
Right.
So, yeah, you got to be careful. One thing, as crazy as I am, I never got into drugs, which was great. I got into sugar. But, unlike what Tammy says, I did not eat the 300 pounds of sugar, like they say.
That's good not to.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
And by the way, what was the cartoon character? What was the toy that you made from a cartoon? What did you make?
Oh, the one that